says that Captain Killian needed 2 men for the ship to replace 2 other men. So it makes sense that they get together and they're friends. The captain, of course, his story is just kind of like from a horror element. That he's just a butcherer. He's psychotic. And he made a deal with the devil when he was drowning as a child in a lake. I envision him to be like age 10, and he's under the water. He can't breathe. And then this demon creature, which is basically the devil, comes up, helps him, but he has to kill his parents or whatever, which is just like Satan. I mean, that's what Satan does. Oh, you can have the world, but you still have to do a little bit of evil to get through, because Satan wants it. And that's what you see with all these elite people or whatever. They're all doing the same thing. They're just, I believe that they're actually killing people for Satan in exchange for all the wealth of the world and all the kingdoms of the world, just like Satan would do. So that's interesting, and I kind of wanted that little element in there too. But then again, in the story, it's hearsay, so no one really knows for a fact. So I kind of left that vague. I like stories that leave things a little vague, like you kind of leave your imagination to figure out what kind of might have happened, but not to the point where there's no story that tells you it. I really like stories that kind of leave openings in some places. So on this island, these mysterious black creatures with long arms that were up in the trees, I've mentioned them briefly. They're not the same as those fish creatures that came up out of the water. These things are just mysterious black. I got the idea for these things when I watched some YouTube video where they have these. It's like a night camera or whatever, and you see these things wobbling through like a park, and it's really creepy. They're like pale white, and they're like got like long arms. I don't know, night crawlers or night creepers or something. Anyway, you can look it up on YouTube. It's a really creepy video, and I don't know if it's real or if it's fake, but I just got the idea from that. I remember seeing that and thinking, my God, that's really creepy. In the middle of the night, some giant tall thing, long arms or whatever, just kind of goes wobbling through the yard or whatever. And these things are creepy looking. I mean, really creepy. And it freaks you out because on the video, you can physically see it, and you're like, oh my God, what the heck is that? I don't know if that's faked, so maybe there is something out there. I mean, there's statues made in honor of these things, I guess. I did a little looking into it, and I mean, I guess Native Americans have statues or something made in honor of these weird night creepers or night crawlers or whatever they're called. So that's an interesting little tie-in too. So these things that were up in the trees, they were snatching people up into the trees. They were all black. I wanted everything to just kind of have this black element because I want this island to be considered basically hell risen. So that's why I included that. And I put all those elements into that. Those creatures were just, I mean, if you think about it, you're walking along kind of like a forest with trees with no leaves. All the trees are black and dead, and these things are up in the top of the trees just like crawling around, and they're just reaching down and pulling people up and killing them or whatever they're doing. I don't go into what they're doing because I just want to leave that vague for the reader to kind of have this imagination like, oh my God, what the heck are those things? And that way I can go into it. If I want to use that creature later on, I can actually bring that creature into another story or something like that. Whenever I think of stories, I always think of the story as just a piece of a giant jigsaw puzzle, kind of. So this story just kind of fits in because I had other ideas for stories, but I don't want all the stories to have this pirate feeling or whatever. I'd like to do some stories nowadays, but the thing is, I suck at writing. I really do. I need a writer or somebody who will actually just take what I record in audio or something and turn it into a book or make it sound worthy, because this took a lot of work for me to get this to this point. But I'm happy with it, so I guess it's worth it. But I don't have time I don't have time to write down all the stories I come up with. I come up with a lot of stories because I have grown up watching movies. I mean, I'll be honest. Stuff like the Planet of the Apes, the original one, not the newer one. the original one, is what really made me want to write stories or wanted to do. I wanted to make movies, really, because writing a story to me is just boring. I don't like to read, so I like to watch movies, and I envision everything in the form of a movie. I see it as a full epic film, everything. So when I envision things, that's kind of how I write. I write as I see a story. So I basically am trying to convey a story the way you'd see stories today. But I just wanted to get that out there, I guess, for the little behind the scenes or whatever of this story. I mean, I don't think the story's worth doing a behind the scenes really anyway. It's kind of I just don't think it's going to be, I don't think many people actually care. I mean, a lot of stuff that I do, I do music, and I think when I record music or whatever, and I create music or whatever, I'm like, wow, I can't believe I made that. My Christian music, Bible Underground, that's my band or my project or whatever I'm under. But anyway, that is, when I make songs for that, some of them I can't actually believe that I made. I'm just listening to it in the car, and I'm like, man, I love this. This is freaking awesome, you know? So I'll be like listening to this stuff, and because I always do the car test, that's what I call it. I'll drive down the road with the song on my iPad or on my iPod or whatever, and I'll listen to it on the stereo in the car as I'm driving down the road, and I'll just keep listening to it over and over again to see if it passes what I call the car test, which means I'm basically analyzing the song as I'm driving down the road and thinking, okay, what do I have to do with this song? Do I have to shorten this up? Is it too repetitive? You know, I do that type of stuff. And I really struggle with trying to add lyrics to some of these things because I always listen to the song and I'm like, man, that's perfect. I don't want to mess it up with lyrics. But this isn't really about music, but that's kind of how I think. And that's really what I've done that already with this audio story. I've actually listened to it, and I was like going through it, trying to debate what I want to keep and what I want to throw out, you know, and editing it up. And took so long because of I suck at reading out loud. I don't know what it is, but when I want to read out loud, I sound like I don't know how to read or something. I don't understand it. I just kind of had to edit through this whole thing. It's like sentence by sentence. It was a lot of technical stuff, just constantly edit, re-record, edit. And I did all this on my iPad like I always do because my computer is just the worst of the worst. Maybe someday I'll actually get a MacBook Pro so I can actually do this show like real people would. And maybe then I can actually record audio from other people's interviews. I mean, I can talk on Skype and I can do all these things, but I just don't have the mixer and all this stuff to actually do a recording over Skype of audio. So that's why I don't have any interviews or whatever. And I'm still working on trying to get my wife to be a part of this too. Because I basically listen to the Kapow radio show, and I listen to that husband and wife, and it's kind of interesting what they do. I don't think I would ever do anything that's like reading the news and going over the news like they do on Freedom Fridays or whatever. And I'm not going to get into any kind of details like Brother Marco's show on that network. It's just kind of nice to have someone to kind of bounce ideas off every now and then. Me and her talk about this stuff, and she has different opinions, or she just doesn't understand it. She doesn't get into as many of these topics as I do, so it's kind of hard for her to understand it sometimes. But we'll be talking or whatever, and I'll bring up stuff, and she believes in what I say, and she agrees with a lot of the stuff I say. She doesn't think I'm crazy like most people would think, you know, if you talk about the New World Order, you know, oh, that's conspiracy. Well, that's funny because presidents have talked about it. It's a plan that's actually being put into effect, and people don't even know. People are too ignorant to actually look around and actually want to research it, so they're just like, well, I guess I'll die for lack of knowledge. The thing is, I just had some ideas about having a show or a few shows with her, and that's kind of like what I think about for the future of this. I've been thinking about stuff like in general, like trying to get a website going where I can make money off of some of my stuff, like my music, because I use TuneCore, and that's like 50 something dollars a year, and I don't release an album a lot, so I feel like I'm wasting my money having my music on TuneCore to get it on iTunes or whatever. And like I said, I'm not trying to boast or anything. My last album was just instrumental, and it wasn't that great. So it's not like it was something that really a lot of people bought. I know there's a lot of people that said they liked it and all that stuff, and it's nice and everything, but they didn't really care. There's a lot of people in my family, if you tell them that you release something, there's no support. If I tell them that I'm making Christian music, there is nothing. It's just you get dead eyes. They look at you like, oh, okay. And they don't even want to listen to it. They don't even want to actually understand or even try to attempt to look into it and maybe go, hey, maybe I should help him out since we're family, or support him or whatever. No, nothing. I sent my parents my album, and they haven't listened to one song yet, so it's like, oh, wow. I also sent them the audio Bible that I have, so they can listen to the audio Bible, but they don't want to listen to that either, so I guess they just don't want to hear the Bible, and that kind of makes me upset. I mean, my dad, he really just gets on my nerves about that, because he sits there talking about how he wants to listen to the Bible with his guy, Jack Vinamp or whatever, on TV, and that's it. It's like, oh, your whole connection to Jesus is just 20 minutes on TV once a week. 20 minutes, that's it. That's all you need. And you'll go right to heaven. Jesus will never say, I never knew you. He'll say, I love you so much because you've always wanted to know me. That's like, I guess that's a rant. I shouldn't even go there. This isn't really about that. It just kind of drives me nuts. People, they say all nice things about your craft or whatever you're into, your artwork or whatever, or your music or whatever, and then they just walk away. Or I've had this where I actually do artwork and they say, oh, that's awesome. And then they want it for free. It's like, oh, thanks for supporting the artist. That's really supportive. Getting to the point, I was just thinking about having a website where I could put my music and stuff. Stuff like crafts for my wife and my crafts or whatever. Stuff that we can build, whatever, stuff that we make or whatever. It's just basically to support the podcast and to maybe help us down the road. I don't know. I hate my job, so it'd be kind of nice to be able to get out of that sometime and be able to move to the Philippines and not have to worry about work and stuff. So I'm trying to find a way online to make money with my creativity. So that's one thing I've been starting to think about. I don't know. I don't know much about getting a website and all that stuff. But whatever, that's pretty much the show. I hope you enjoyed the story. All right, well, thanks for listening. If you enjoy this show, please feel free to share it. You can find us on Spreaker, iTunes, and most podcatchers. And if you'd like to support the show, please leave a review on iTunes or Spreaker or wherever you find this show. And for more information on this show, go to the Fringianity Underground podcast Facebook group and like us. Images will be posted there for this show and others as well. Please check Spreaker or wherever you get this podcast every Sunday evening for new episodes. And thank you for listening.